What's that?
Just fill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks a lot. You're probably wondering what happened here. As it turns out, I just partook in one of Oregon's greatest traditions, the full-service gas station. I always seem to forget about it. You may not notice it, and it's kind of vestigial, but most gas stations around the United States say self-serve on them. They're few and far between now, but in the past, the full-service gas station was much more common. In earlier times around the country, gas station attendants, or gas jockeys, were workers at these full-service stations. They would pump fuel, check oil levels, clean windshields, and prior to engine starters, jockeys would manually turn the crankshaft to help start the engine when fueling was completed to send you on your way. In the United States, they would also commonly receive tips for their services. I'm not sure if you remember from Looney Tunes, but crank-starting engines was a common way to start engines in the earlier 20th century. It was like pole cranking for your lawnmower. It was actually dangerous to do this. Some engines would kick back, causing a sudden reverse in rotation that could strike or injure the person cranking the engine. There was a special way to crank the engine, and if done incorrectly, you could easily break your thumb, wrist, or dislocate your shoulder or elbow in these situations. The larger the engine, the more force it had, too. To remedy this, automatic starters were built in most vehicles by the year 1920. Before that, people of a certain strength or handicap would require assistance starting engines, which is where many jockeys would come in to help. The downfall of the full-service gas station came with the energy crises of 1973 and 1979. After these crises, the gas jockey almost went entirely extinct. What happened to them? What were these crises? In the crisis of 1973, OPEC, or the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, decided to embargo the United States and other nations that were assisting Israel in the Yom Kippur War. Basically, Israel took a ton of Arab land in the Six-Day War, and 6 years later, the Arab countries tried to take it back in the Yom Kippur War. The US helps Israel, Arabs get pissed, and stop selling oil to them. Oil prices quadrupled, causing global long and short-term political and economic consequences, causing the energy crisis of 1973. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution caused another crisis. Iran was a monarchy, ruled by an emperor called the Shah of Iran. In 1979, political pressure and nationwide protests grew against the Shah as he was seen as a Western puppet. One such protest grew to 6 to 9 million people, or 10% of the population of the country. Eventually, these protests caused a revolution and an overthrow of the pro-Western authoritarian monarchy to create a theocratic republic that held great resentment toward the United States. Iran's oil production dropped, dropping the global petroleum supply only 4%. This isn't a substantial amount, but memories of the 1973 crisis caused fear in the markets, which doubled the price of crude oil. In the United States, these two oil shocks, in the short term, caused long lines at gas stations. Motorists would panic buy gasoline and store it. Nuclear power became more popular. NASCAR reduced their race distances by 10%. Rear-wheel drive cars were phased out in favor of front-wheel designs. Gas stations would only service cars with certain numbers, a practice known as odd-even rationing. In the long term, oil production in areas of Texas, Oklahoma, Alaska, and other states saw an economic boom and population flows as U.S. oil became more popular and stable economically. The American muscle car became all but extinct as the more fuel-efficient cars of the 1980s took over. States changed their laws to allow cars to turn right on red lights. In order to get by, gas stations had to get rid of the gas jockeys to save on labor costs. Today, only Oregon, New Jersey, and the town of Huntington, New York have laws that prohibit self-service gas stations. The joke is that when babies are born in Oregon, the doctor slaps their bottom and says, no self-serve and no sales tax. In Oregon, the practice is as cultural as it is economic. Many livelihoods rely on laws that prevent self-serve gas stations. There have been many challenges in courts to the constitutionality of self-service bans, as well as defeated ballot measures to allow them. There is a change in public perception toward these laws, however. In a 2014 poll, it showed that 53% of Oregonians under 45 favor self-service stations. It could only be a matter of time for Oregon, but for now, the gas station attendant, also known as the gas jockey, will continue to be an anomaly that will elude my memory and surprise me every time I pull up to a gas station. Luckily for me, they make exceptions for motorcyclists. Oh, I made it. I'm at the Tucker County Park in Hood River County. I think I left at about 8:15 and I got here at about 7, which would have been about 8. The time zones changed, so I got here, I pitched my tent, made dinner, cleaned dinner. Oh, and then I tried to get some water. I tried to get some water to like clean and like make coffee and stuff, and a bunch of box elder cockroach fuckers shot out of the faucet and right into my water bottle. This is making me puke. It's fucking gross. And now I'm just gonna lounge around and read. I rode 500 miles. I'm not really in the mood to ride around Mount Hood. It is a beautiful volcano with a glacier on it, which is absolutely stunning to see. But yeah, I followed the Oregon Trail here. I was on a part of where most of the trail had gone on I-84. And toward the end, it was actually interesting. The very end of the video game, which I used to play the Oregon Trail video game a lot when I was a kid. I was riding along a river. I couldn't help but think that was the very end of the game when you strapped your wagon to a big raft and you took it down a river. So it was funny seeing that. It's like, wow, I've been down this river in video games a million times. Oop, I gotta go.